Hi folks, welcome to another episode of the Southern Drink Review. I'm Derek.
And I'm Dan.
And today we're doing a very special review. So you've noticed that we've done almost exclusively beer. We threw in a couple ciders and a mead in there. But like every great show, we need to diversify. Now, we are a drinks show. We're not a beer show. So this will be our very last beer review for a while. Not ever. We'll definitely come back. We're both like beer too much not to. So we decided to make it something special. Today we have Petrus Oud Bruin, which is basically a sour brown ale. Now, the reason that makes this special isn't just the fact that it's a Belgian sour brown, because those are, they're not a dime a dozen, but they're definitely out there and very popular. What makes this one a little special, not super special, but a little special, is that I bought this last Christmas. And it was already then had been sitting out and about for a while. I don't even know how long. So this has been aged at least 6 months, probably closer to a year, maybe even a year and a half. So what we're doing is we're going to compare this to when we last had it at Christmas time to see how it's changed in those 6 months. This has been kept in my refrigerator, so it's been aged cold. So not much has probably, the yeast activity has been kept low, but at the same time, oxidation has been kept very low too. So tell me what you remember about this beer, because we both bought, I bought myself and Dan a 4-pack for Christmas.
Right. So, well, I do remember it was a sour. I think that there is a, if I recall it, there's a fairly strong alcohol flavor, so there's a bite to it.
I don't remember that, because this is only 5.5%. Well, it was only 5.5% when it was bottled. Right. If the wild yeast in here is kept fermenting, it will have gone up. Mm-hmm. So I remember it having a very strong malt profile. It wasn't as sour as I would have expected, but we're going to find out how that changes now. Look at that beautiful brown color. One nice thing about glass bottles is you can see once you've hit the halfway point. So I don't have to do quite as much eyeballing and measuring as sometimes you'll see me do, going back and forth, back and forth. I'm not sure if this is bottle conditioned. It doesn't look like it. See, look at that. My eyeball method pretty much worked. It was a little off.
Yeah, doesn't look very cloudy, so I don't think it was bottle conditioned.
Yeah, well, let's look at the bottom here. And I can't see through the bottom, so I'm guessing it was bottle conditioned.
Nope. Maybe.
Let's see. Let me look down in here. Oh, yeah, there is a solid layer of yeast on the bottom of this bottle.
Okay.
Take a look in there. Hold it up to the light there.
Oh, yeah, for sure there is.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, bottle conditioned means that they bottled the beer and they either bottled it before it was finished fermenting, or they added a little bit of extra sugar to it after it was bottled. And usually when I say sugar, I don't mean like they pour table sugar in. It means they might have added a little bit of corn sugar, or they added a little bit of unfermented wort in there, which is what unfermented beer is called, in order for the yeast that are still alive to ferment it and then carbonate it that way, because it's capped, the carbon dioxide can't escape, and then over time that yeast falls out, settles to the bottom. And so when it does that, it creates a layer on the bottom of expended yeast cells. They're not necessarily dead. Some of them are hibernating. Some of them are dead. But it goes and creates a more complex flavor.
Right. And the reason that I was comparing the two is because what will happen is as he pours the last into mine, some of that yeast from the bottom will get in there, and usually you'll get it'll start getting cloudy. And you would be able to see, for instance, if that yeast had got into mine, then it would be, I'd have a really cloudy beer compared to his. But actually,
yours looks, no, it's not.
No, it's not. And I think what happened was just that yeast has been sitting there for so long, kind of got compacted down there. Maybe, I don't know.
It also helps that I poured it really carefully.
Right. Poured it really carefully. Yeah, because what you'll do is a lot of these bottle conditioned ones, you'll pour one and you'll pour the other one, and then all of a sudden it'll get real cloudy and be like, oh gosh, it was bottle conditioned, and then it'll taste a little different. Yeah.
The thing you've got to be careful for. So I hate to digress, but I'm going to digress.
Yeah. Okay.
When you're pouring a bottle conditioned beer, and most of the time they will say whether or not they're bottle conditioned, you'll leave, basically you'll pour, and then when there's about an inch worth or half an inch left of beer in the bottle, you just leave it. You pour it, you just put the beer down, and you have a half inch in there, and that's what left in there. Because that way you don't end up with the yeast in there. Because yeast adds what's known as yeast bite. It's a fruity flavor that gets into the beer, and it can be off-putting in certain styles, especially styles that aren't supposed to have a fruity flavor to them. So, and it's not like fruity like oranges and stuff. It's almost like, I guess you could say berry.
Yeah, and it's not bad in some beer. I mean,
yeah, it's true. It's not going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
It has vitamin B, but it's an undesirable taste in certain styles of beer. Now there are other styles of beer like Hefeweizen where you want yeast in there. You'll actually have people shake bottles up to get the yeast back into the beer because that's the way the style is supposed to be drank. Now this one though, the yeast settled out nicely. We poured it nicely. There's no yeast that got into either one of these glasses. Have a smell, Dan. I've already smelled this. So it smells about how I remember, but it has a much more distinct sour smell to it. I don't remember it having that sour smell that's there.
Well, I'll tell you what. The first thing that hit me when I put my nose there was that huge malty character. It smelled really yummy and malty. And then as I smelled it, once my nose got used to that malt, that huge burst of malt, then I could smell the sour.
So I'm anxious to try this. And not anxious like I don't want to try it, but anxious like I want to try this. And I'll share a little secret with you after we've gone and finished our review of this beer.
Okay.
So let's go ahead. L'chaim. I'm not even Jewish, I know, but still, it's fun to say.
Very malty.
Very malty. It does have a little more of a sour taste to it than I remember. The malt has oxidized some though. You've got some more complex flavors in there. It's no longer just malt.
I can taste a little bit of clove or something in there.
I don't know about clove. I tasted. Hold on. Let me.
No, go ahead and taste it again.
Yeah.
And I taste a little bit of sour. To me, it's not as sour as it was before.
It wasn't that sour before though. Maybe you're misremembering what beer.
Maybe I am. Maybe I am. To me, I can almost taste. Maybe it's the yeast or something. I can taste a little bit of that. That burnt tire flavor.
Yeah. You know what? It's kind of funny. I'm actually almost getting a little bit of a coffee note in this.
Yeah.
I
can see what you're saying. That it's especially on the back end, and as it sits on your tongue, But I think it's that burnt tire taste because that's kind of how I'm interpreting it. Is more burnt tire, but it can almost kind of tend towards coffee a little bit too.
Yeah, I wonder if I'm not 100% sure how they fermented this. I know this was aged in oak foeders, which is, for those who don't know, are basically giant barrels. But let's see, it's 33% foeder beer, 67% young brown beer. So I'm guessing since this is Belgian, I'm guessing they probably used a Belgian yeast to ferment it, and then they threw it in the foeder to age and to get the
that's probably why you have the
wild
Belgian,
yeast in there. So that's probably why you have exactly. And you know what? I noticed it after you said it. I didn't think so at first. That's why I responded no. But now that I had a second taste, you're right. It does have a slight clove to it. Mm-hmm. I did it. You know what? And actually, I can smell it on there too now. It's those Belgian yeast strain phenols,
right?
Esters, which are word for fancy chemicals put off by yeast.
It's definitely good though.
Yeah, it's still good.
Yeah, it's just very complex.
It is. This has definitely gotten more complex as it's aged.
Yeah.
And I think it's better now than when we had it the first time. Still not as sour as I like it. I like mine a lot more sour. But the malt on this has gotten so complex.
See, to me, the sourness on this, and I like sour beers. To me, the sour on this is almost an afterthought. If you want to know the truth, it is sour. It's
only 33% sour beer though.
Okay.
It's only 1/3 sour beer, and then the rest of it is just young, regular fermented beer.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's just so complex. It's almost hard to put into words how it tastes.
It is very complex.
Yeah, the sourness you get, basically, it's a burst of sourness.
Yeah, right. It is a burst of sourness. I think it's closer to the end. I think you get a lot of the complex flavors. It's not, when you first smelled it, it's that huge malt burst, right? It does not taste like that to me. I think the first couple tastes you could taste the malt, but now that malt is just kind of, I don't know, maybe it's just kind of
Maybe you're just used to it. 'Cause I still-
overloaded my taste buds now. And
Because
now
I'm still tasting a good bit of malt on there.
It's still there. It's still there.
But see, part of it is that it might just be that the flavors you're tasting are, because let me guess, the flavors that have come out to you, they're a little bit of plum, a little bit of dried fruit type of tastes, aren't they? That's really what you're tasting right now, or a little bit of fruits, not a whole bunch. Dark fruits though.
No, definitely
almost
very dark.
winish.
Yeah, I would say exactly.
You know what that is?
What is that?
That is aged malt. That is oxidized malt. That's
Okay.
what happens when you let these age properly.
Okay.
That's why on the beer that we have downstairs that is a mystery beer and we are saving for when we go and move to our final location. It's been aging for a while, and that's why when we tried it when it was really young, it was very hot and phenolic, and then later on, it got to be more complex and raisiny and such, and it'll continue down this path. Now, it got there much faster because we are, although we're not, I guess technically we're not aging it correctly, because we're not aging it at refrigerator temperatures, but we are aging it in a room that does not change temperature. So it is at a constant pressure. So there's that. But this is an example of how a beer ages over time. Right here. It went from a little one note and somewhat sour to still being only somewhat sour, but the malt character has deepened on it, gotten much more complex. You got, like I said, dark fruit.
Dark fruit, yeah, that's right. Dark fruit, cloves, a little bit of burnt tire in there, I think. So it's definitely gotten more complex. And then the sour, so it is fairly complex.
It is. Guys, this is a great sour beer.
Yeah.
I mean, is this sour as I like? No. If it was more sour and I still had all of that great complexity, I would sit there and probably rate it a 5. Because this is one of the most complex beers we've tasted in just about ever, I think. I mean, can you think of a beer that's got this depth of character to it when you taste it? That's a question for you.
No, I guess not, because it has so many. Well, I don't know. Let me think. We've tasted some really good beer.
Yes.
So I'll put it that way. We tasted some really good beer. I personally think we've tasted better beer, but I don't think we've tasted more complex beer.
Okay. I guess it depends on what you're looking for when you drink it. So, what do you think? How are you going to rate this beer out of 5 stars? I think I've actually already got something in my head, but I want to hear what you say.
It's definitely a good beer. Let me have one more taste.
That's excellent beer.
Well, if I'm sitting there, what would this be really good with? It'd be really good with a steak, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Or something like that. Almost like something you would drink a wine with. I think that, gosh, I have to give it a 4. I have to give it a 4. Still can't go to a 4.5 on this. It's really good.
Yeah, I was hovering between a 4 and a 4.5.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with a 4 also.
Okay.
And the reason it doesn't get a 4.5 is I wish it had a little more sourness to it. Because I think the sourness, if you punched it up a little bit, would go and lend itself to the complexity. It would be a nice counter note to the complexity. Right now, it's just kind of there.
It's a background thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, how would you describe the sourness on this? That's a good question right there, I feel. I don't think, it's not like vinegar. It's not like lemon. It's a complex sourness. It's very hard.
Bitter sourness.
A bitter sourness. I have to say I haven't heard that before.
Well,
so,
it's a bitter type sourness like you would get from lemon peel, but without the lemon flavor.
Okay.
Or maybe like from the peel of a fruit, but it's not fruity flavor. It's just that type of sour.
Well, then it's a zesty sourness then, because
sure.
Because with that you don't really get too much of the fruit flavor unless you bake it or something else like that. But you don't get any bitterness with this. There's no pithiness to it or anything.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what else would be sour and bitter like that, like the if you bit into the pit of a fruit or something like that.
The thing is that if you don't drink sour beers, it's hard to describe the sourness because the way that it gets its sourness is so unique from so much other stuff. It's, what it reminds me a bit of? Let me taste this again. Hold on a second. Well, I mean, I'm going to refresh my palate.
What's the alcohol content on this?
This is like 5.5. It's 5.5. 5.5. Yeah, it's not very bad. So the sourness on this is like, you know what? I think I've got it.
Okay, go ahead.
What it is, it's like having a big, juicy hamburger with a single pickle on it. And the reason I say that is because you got this big, malty flavor bomb with a sour note in it that doesn't really come up front and take center stage. Right. But you know there's something there with some tartness.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, it does not taste like pickle.
No, it does not taste like pickle.
Okay, but he has described it correctly as that sourness that's in here is sort of like the back, just that little hint of sour that you get as you're eating a big, juicy, that big, thick restaurant hamburger.
Yes, a big hamburger with a tiny pickle on it.
Yes, so that's a good description of the amount of sourness you're going to get with it.
Yeah, and it's almost a description of the flavor. I'm not talking about like a big giant dill pickle. I'm talking about like one of those deli pickles that's sour but doesn't have like a very distinct flavor to it. Mm-hmm. You know, I think that's about the closest you can come. It's so difficult to describe some of these flavors for the simple fact that they're unique. You don't get this type of sourness in very many foods.
Now, I'm going to digress for a second.
Okay.
Okay. Aging beers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, normally, what would you say would be the normal alcohol content that you would want to age a beer?
No less than 9.5%.
Right. And so what about this one? This is only 5%. It's aged for... So what would you say about this? And why would you not want to age a beer for very long?
So the reason the reason you generally don't want to age lighter beers, say a Budweiser, is because of the fact that they are malt, a little bit of hops, nothing else. Hops goes away really soon. Malt oxidizes, and if malt oxidizes and it doesn't have a lot of complexities of the malt, which a Budweiser is made with one type of grain, you end up getting kind of a wet cardboard taste to it, and it's not pleasant whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Big alcohol beers, Russian Imperial Stouts, barley wine, stuff like that, they go, and the high alcohol content helps interact with because the reason it has a high alcohol content is because you have a really big malt bill, and it's really complex. Mm-hmm. And so those big complex malts, when they oxidize, they don't create that wet cardboard flavor very much. There might be some in the background, but what they'll do is they'll end up with these wine notes, these dark fruits, and everything else. Dan, turn off your cell phone next time. Now, the reason, though, that we age this beer, even though it's only 5.5%, is because it's a little bit of a unique case because it's a sour beer. Sour beers are another one of those is an exception to the rule. And the reason is because the cultures in a sour beer are still alive, and they continue fermenting even though the main yeast has already done its job. It's eaten all the sugars that it can, and then you introduce the sour beers, and the sour yeast can sit there and can eat sugars that the main one can't, but it just works much slower. So you give it time for it to eat its way through all of that material. That's why sour beers aging works, say an IPA does not. You know, much more complex grain bill on this, obviously. And I think it just came out excellent.
Yeah. So
I think this was a successful age.
Right. What would we give it before?
We gave it 4 stars.
Okay, so stay to 4
Well,
stars.
no, we haven't. Sorry, we did not go and review this before.
Right. What would we give it before?
Before, I'd give it a 3, actually.
Okay.
I wouldn't have given it more than a 3. It was sour, not as sour as I wanted, and the malt flavor was nowhere near as complex as this. It was just kind of one note. It was there.
Okay.
You know, but this, now that it's aged, got some age on it, it's much more complex. It's much more delicious. So we got a 4 stars on this one.
Oh, definitely.
Now, the secret that I was keeping until after we went and rated this beer.
Oh, go ahead.
I have one more bottle of this. And I'm going to age it until Christmas time. And then we're going to try it a whole year after I bought it and see where it hits its sweet spot at.
Okay. That's
really the question. When you age beers, you want to try them, if possible, out in increments. And the reason you want to do that is because you want to find the sweet spot, because at a point it'll age and get better and better and better, and then it'll start going downhill and won't be as good. Mm-hmm. So we tried this at 6 months after I bought it. I'll probably sit there and try to look up the lot code here and find out exactly when it was brewed to give you an exact age on this. But we're going to try it in another 6 months and see
Okay.
how it is. The only downside to trying it in 6 months is that's my last bottle.
All right. Well, and you guys may get to see us spit out some beer.
No.
Oh, okay.
I will not spit out beer. I don't care. But I will tell you one thing, guys. If you do happen to find a 6-year-old Budweiser, it's probably not going to taste very good. But know that if you drink it, it is not going to harm you. So, this has been the Southern Drink Review. I'm Derek.
I'm Dan.
Reminding you, please always drink responsibly. If you enjoyed this video, click like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and we will catch y'all later.